Okay, let's talk about a story that is it's almost hard to believe. It's a story about a deal so massive it basically left the entire tech world speechless. But it was born from an idea that came this close to completely failing. You know, it all starts with a kid, a teenager, actually, on food stamps, and it ends with a signature on a $19 billion contract. Yep, billion with a B. This is the wild, improbable story of WhatsApp. So, this is the journey we're going to unpack. I mean, look at this contrast. From standing in a line for government assistance to sitting at a table signing one of the biggest deals in tech history. It's just mind-boggling. And the real question isn't just, what happened? It's how. How does someone even make a leap like that? To really get the whole $19 billion ending, you have to go all the way back to the beginning.
So to really get a handle on the app, we first have to understand the founder, Jan Koum. And his story? Well, it starts a world away from the sunny campuses of Silicon Valley. We're talking a small, rural village in Soviet-era Ukraine. And these early hardships, believe it or not, they ended up being the blueprint for what he'd create later. I mean, think about it. You grow up without stuff like hot water or even electricity. It teaches you pretty quickly what's essential and what's not. Simplicity, reliability, those become your default settings. But the biggest thing? Living in a place where the government was literally listening in on your phone calls. That instilled this incredibly deep-seated belief in privacy. For him, privacy wasn't some, marketing buzzword. It was a core value forged from real-life experience.
So at 16, he lands in California, and the hustle starts right away. I mean, immediately. He's sweeping floors in a grocery store just to help his family get by. And at the same time, he's teaching himself computer networking from used books he'd buy. Just pure grit. That kind of raw determination gets him into university and then a job at one of the hottest tech companies at the time, Yahoo. And he was so hooked by the work there, so into it, that he actually dropped out of college to go all in on his career.
But just as it seems like he's finally finding his feet, tragedy hits. His mother, the person he came to this country with, passes away from cancer. And suddenly, he's completely on his own in a new country. It's in that incredibly tough moment that a friend and coworker from Yahoo, a guy named Brian Acton, really steps up to support him, and that friendship, born out of this really difficult time, well, it would become the foundation for one of the most successful partnerships in the history of tech.
All right, so after almost 10 years at Yahoo, both Koum and Acton felt like it was time for something new. They were ready for their next chapter. And then, in January of 2009, a brand new piece of tech came along that would provide that spark.
So Koum gets one of the new iPhones, right? And he opens up this thing called the App Store, which was only about 7 months old at the time. And it was like a light bulb went off. He saw the future. He realized this whole new world of software was about to explode on these little devices we carry in our pockets. His first idea was pretty simple, actually. Just an app that would show a little status update next to people's names in your phone's address book. He had no idea at the time, but that little idea, it had some serious potential.
And from the very beginning, from day one, Koum had these 3 rules that were just completely non-negotiable. Rule number 1, no advertising, ever. He absolutely despised ads. Rule number 2, no clutter, no games, no gimmicks, just a super clean, super reliable experience. And rule number 3, and this goes back to his childhood, user privacy was everything. He never forgot those tapped phone lines back in Ukraine. So these weren't just, bullet points on a feature list. They were promises. They were basically the DNA of what he was trying to build.
Now, having a powerful idea and strong principles, that's a fantastic start. But as anyone in the startup world will tell you, an idea is easy. Execution, that's everything. And in the beginning, the execution of WhatsApp was, let's just say, a total and complete disaster. I mean, the first version of the app was just terrible. It barely worked. It was constantly crashing. It would drain your phone's battery like crazy. It was so unreliable that even his closest friends, the very first people to use it, they just stopped. They gave up on it. The whole project was basically dead on arrival.
And Koum? He was completely defeated. He later admitted he was totally ready to throw in the towel. He even started looking for a new job. Seriously, WhatsApp was this close to just being another forgotten app in the graveyard of failed ideas.
So, was that it? Was this the end of the story for WhatsApp before it even really began? It really almost was. But his friend, Brian Acton, told him, hey, just give it a few more months. Don't give up yet. And then, out of nowhere, a lifeline appeared, and it came from the most unlikely place you can imagine, Apple itself.
See, Apple introduced something new called push notifications. And this was a total game changer. All of a sudden, apps could send you little alerts or pings even when you weren't actively using them. For WhatsApp, this changed everything. That simple little status update feature, it now acted like a ping to all your friends. And that's when Coombe had this huge realization. He hadn't built a status app, he had accidentally built an instant messenger.
The second he saw this new potential, Brian Acton went all in. He went to some of his old buddies from their Yahoo days and convinced them to invest $250,000 in seed funding. And with that cash injection, he officially joined as the co-founder. Just like that, WhatsApp was back in business.
So now they had some money in the bank, and more importantly, a product that actually worked. And what happened next? WhatsApp's growth went from basically zero to absolutely explosive.
And what's crazy is their growth strategy. It was so radical because, well, they didn't have one at all. No ads, no marketing department, no big PR campaigns. The growth was 100% organic. It was driven by just one single thing, a product that was so genuinely useful and good that people just couldn't help but tell their friends about it.
And this is where it gets truly staggering. I mean, look at this ratio. By early 2014, they have hundreds of millions of active users all over the world. So you're picturing a huge company, right? The team running this entire global operation, 55 people. Just 55. That level of efficiency, it wasn't just rare in Silicon Valley, it was absolutely legendary.
Now, you just can't ignore that kind of explosive growth. It's impossible. Pretty soon, all the big players in Silicon Valley started knocking on their door. And that included, of course, Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook. And in February 2014, Zuckerberg made them an offer that just sent shockwaves through the entire tech industry. $19 billion. And this is where the story truly comes full circle. It's an incredible moment. To sign the papers for this massive deal, Jan Koum didn't go to some fancy high-rise law office. Nope, he drove back to the North County Social Services building, the exact same building where years before he and his mother used to stand in line to collect food stamps. He literally pressed that $19 billion contract against the door of that building and signed his name, closing the chapter on this unbelievable journey from poverty to unimaginable prosperity.
So after all that, what's the big lesson here? What's the takeaway? In an industry that is so full of noise and hype, how did this quiet, super simple app win so decisively? Well, the answer is actually pretty simple. The product is everything. That's it. WhatsApp didn't outspend its competitors. It didn't outmarket them. It just outbuilt them. They created a tool that was so fundamentally useful, so clean, and so reliable that it just sold itself. Their product was their marketing. Which kind of leaves us with one last, really big question to think about, right? The WhatsApp story. It almost feels like a legend from an earlier, simpler time on the internet. In today's world, which is just saturated with aggressive marketing and endless floods of venture capital, could a company like this even exist? Could it still rise to the top? Or let's put it another way. Can the best product, all on its own, still truly win?